Hello and welcome to the Candlelight Podcast, where I, Mohamed Abdalla, talk about different topics, including some of my favorites, which are movies, martial arts, and philosophy. Let's start with this week's quote, guys. إرضاء الناس غاية لا تدرك, an Arabian proverb. So, which it's roughly translated to seeking the pleasure of everyone, all people, is an impossible goal. It's an inconceivable goal, unachievable. إرضاء الناس غاية لا تدرك. You can't please everyone. It's impossible. You can't please every single person on the planet with something you would do. If you say something, if you do anything, there is at least one person who's gonna disagree, and this is obviously especially true for more statements that have to do with anything regarding politics or philosophy or anything at all, basically. So, and this a prime example of this is this past week, Habib has been getting a lot of flack for a lot of his statements, some of which are actually deserved, but others just seem to be emotional more than anything. So, check this out. One of the comments he said, he was actually asked about Jose Aldo. The reason he was asked about Jose Aldo is because Aldo's been looking really good lately in his fights, and the journalist who asked Habib was referring to something that Habib already said before, which was that a fighter can't have two peaks. You can't peak twice in fighting. So, Aldo's been doing really good lately. And this journalist decided to bring this up to Habib and ask him, what do you think of Aldo's recent performances? He's been looking really good. You once said that a fighter can't have two peaks. And Aldo's kind of becoming the exception to that rule. Habib kind of in a very direct and blunt way asked why, because he beat a person who's barely a top contender. Yeah, he's not gonna get to the elite level where he beats the top guys like Jan or anyone else, because he got beat up by Jan bad. And I guess Habib is kind of right about that, in the sense that you can't have two peaks, and that I guess time will tell with Aldo, but none of the past examples, basically in MMA, have at least shown, have shown that a fighter can, become champion for a while, lose his belt, come back years later and win it back, and get, basically return with a second peak. And basically, Habib shut down the reporter, but he did say something that was a bit unnecessary. He was already kind of blunt with his statements, but what he said next was a bit. This was the really controversial bit. He called Jose Aldo a businessman more than a fighter, because he is still fighting, despite, being on a kind of, being past his prime. And when he fought Piotr Jan for the bantamweight title, he was being beaten up, and he was kind of like covering himself and not protecting himself, not defending himself, allowing Jan to TKO him. So Habib, based off of that last bit of the fight, not the whole 5 rounds, he called Aldo a businessman, because his heart is not really into it. Even though it's obvious through his performances that Aldo is still into it. So I don't know why Habib kind of went there, because that was unnecessary and was kind of untrue, it seemed, to me at least. And maybe there's something he sees that I didn't. But Habib seemed to be a bit on edge that press conference, when he talked about Aldo and mentioned different things. He was a bit on edge. He was speaking very bluntly, and just giving his opinion, on a lot of things in a very direct manner, with no sugarcoating at all. So it seemed like, which is normal of him to be truthful, but not to be this blunt. So it seemed like it was a bit of an off day where he was on edge for some reason, and maybe that got the better of him, because he's human, he can make mistakes. And yeah, and another thing he said, actually, another day, that people caught him flack for. I talked about, by the way, the Mike Tyson thing last week. You can't please everyone. Habib was right about what he said about Mike Tyson, which he didn't say anything bad. He just said, said it how it is. Mike was high, and he didn't have the look of a professional athlete who conducts himself properly and is ready to interview someone, to be a host of a podcast. So there was that. And he was not wrong about that, but he still caught some flack, because people get, sensitive when you kind of say anything that's differing from their opinion, especially when you talk about bad about something such as marijuana in the West, for example. And this week he actually mentioned that ring card girls, the girls that carry the cards in between rounds to show which round it is, are useless. Why? They have no reason to be in the show. It's unnecessary. And of course he caught flack for that as well, even though he is totally right. It's archaic. I don't know why we have this half naked lady, being objectified, holding the ring card and just walking around. But that's Habib's opinion. That's my opinion as well. I think he's right about that. And of course, people just, can't handle a differing opinion. They have to just make fun. They have to try to shut it down, even though they don't really provide the most basic, refutations. Just, bring up some points as to why he's wrong. Don't just make fun of him. But hey, there's that. So, people can talk at least. They can actually, say, I respect his opinion, but I think he is wrong due to the, idea that, whatever, fill in the blank. But there you go. إرضاء الناس غاية لا تدرك. It's impossible to please everybody. So, as to what I've been up to this week, I visited the newly opened استراحة السحب, known in English as the Suhub Rest House in Khorfakan, a beautiful new spot in Khorfakan area of Sharjah. And I think it was just a beautiful, place where, you drive up to the mountain peak and you get to see, you get to be amongst the clouds and you just see Khorfakan down below and just beautiful scenery of mountains in the Khorfakan area. Very beautiful spot. But I do think it's better if I visit it in a month or so because, in a month or more, because of the weather. It's going to get, the weather is a bit hot still. It's a bit humid. I think it's going to get better. And that's the time to go to visit it. So that was a nice place to go. And one of the reasons I went, other than to check out this new awesome tourist spot, is to, do a little project which I did for my internship, which was the last project that I did for my internship. And now I'm done with it, by the way. I made a project, just showcasing the beauty of this new place, a new spot in Sharjah. And that's what I did for, something we were working on. And now this past week was my final week of the internship, and I'm done. And now I'm going to go back, hopefully, to uni. Uni is starting again soon. My university is starting again. It's going to be my last semester, and finally it's going to be face-to-face. Finally, but even though it is face-to-face, there are still some COVID regulations and restrictions, such as, this weird new system where, there's like a group A and a group B of students for each individual class. So a group A student would go, with the rest of the group A students and for the first few weeks, and then the next few weeks it's going to be the group B students who are going to attend the class while the rest attends online. It's a bit of a weird thing. I don't know why they just don't let us, go to classes, but I get it, COVID restrictions. But at the same time, I want to go back to class. I want to go back to face-to-face learning. Yeah, and it's going to be my final semester too. Hopefully I don't graduate online as well. But I think that's kind of like the case. I'm not even going to graduate at all. There's not going to be a ceremony, rather, because it's December. And I'm supposed to graduate with my batch back in June. But I decided, to kind of like extend my career, I guess, my time at uni by taking the courses lightly and not really taking all the courses at once in order to finish my requirements. So I still have 3 more required courses to go, and one of which is philosophy. So I'm getting back into philosophy again, and I just checked out the syllabus for our philosophy course, and it's basically everything that I took in my last philosophy course in uni, but more focused on certain things. So last time it was like an intro to modern philosophy. Modern Western philosophy, and now it's the same thing. It's modern Western philosophy, but focused on I think 3 specific names: Thomas Hobbes, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I think that's his first name, Jean-Jacques, and the third one is Karl Marx. So it would be really interesting to get to learn about these figures, about their thoughts. Even though I already have the basic ideas down, I've went through them, I've read about them. I still want to take this course, see what I can learn. And hopefully have a beneficial and fruitful back and forth with fellow students and the professor, which is going to be a bit, it's gonna be okay. You could do it in an online setting, but I'd rather it be in class so we can speak to each other face to face. It's pretty cool if I get to do that. So that's hopefully what I have in mind. Oh, and what I have in plan rather. What else did I do this week? Oh, well, I guess let's go into the YouTube part of things. I got a few videos here that I kind of watched that I kind of enjoyed, for different reasons. But here we go. So the first YouTube video I guess I want to talk to you guys about was this awesome video of a Scottish woman who converted or reverted to Islam, where she goes through her interesting life story on Sabur Ahmed's channel. Pretty cool. She's Scottish, born and raised in Scotland, and she just goes through her life story as to how, the reality of life in Glasgow was, and how she, as a teenager, was, kind of ousted by her family in a way, because her family, had a lot of problems, and she ended up being homeless and living basically pretty much on the street, but getting to, visit her friends and stay and crash with them. And it was just like the most, wow, it's just a weird but very fascinating way a person came to Islam. A person who reverted back to the religion. It's very interesting to watch. Check it out. So when I say reverted back to the religion, I'm not saying that she was a Muslim and then she became a non-Muslim and then she became Muslim again. No, that is technically true because, what we believe. That's why we use the word revert instead of convert. Is that when you are born on your natural disposition. You're naturally, intrinsically a Muslim in the sense that you just, are, over just, how can I say this? How can I put this correctly? The way you guys might understand. You are born with your natural intuition. You are born knowing that this world, that this world has a creator and that you believe in that creator. Anyway, and then you kind of like grow up to be, either become, a Christian, a Jew, or an atheist, or what have you, whatever it is. And then you can either, live your life however, you were raised, or you can convert to another religion, or you can come back to Islam, I believe, the correct religion, the religion that is the true religion. So, she comes back and she explains her story in an intriguing way, and she says that this is that she is more in tune with her Scottish forefathers and ancestors than modern day Scottish people who think they're still kind of Scottish, but they're not. Whatever ties them back to their ancestors is not there, which was religion. They're not really Christians nowadays in the UK in general, not just Scotland. And they kind of lost that connection to their past. So she's saying she feels more in tune with being Scottish by being religious. Even though it's a different religion, it's still, an Abrahamic faith. Christianity and Islam have so much in common. They're so close together. At least, much closer than Christianity is to, having no religion at all. People have an ideology, of course. Everybody does. Everybody has a worldview. Everybody has an ideology. Not necessarily everybody has a religion in the understood sense of the word, which is following a tradition of a book and messengers and what have you. So that was an interesting video I saw, and another interesting video that I saw was an iguana pulling off the most incredible animal escape video I've ever seen. Wait, where was this? It was like let me just check this out. Let me open it on my phone. It was this iguana that was on this island, which is inhabited completely by snakes. And it is the most incredible escape I've ever seen by an animal. So check this out. This island is called Snake Island, and it's in... Where is it in? My God. Where is it in? Which country was it in? I think, yeah, it's in the Caribbeans and on the Galapagos Islands. So... yeah, an island full of snakes, full of dangerous, venomous snakes that could kill you with a bite. An iguana was there, and the video just showcases the iguana kind of like walking around, minding its own business, and then realizing the danger it's in with all the snakes coming out of their, dens, and such to just run for it and then like escape. So it kind of like runs and dodges and weaves and what have you, just all the way to the point that it's safe, and it kind of is able to climb and jump and things that snakes can't do because they're snakes. They don't have limbs, so you don't have legs, don't have limbs. So it's a very interesting video. It's a really cool one. It's check it out. It's on YouTube. So another interesting thing that I've watched on YouTube is I rewatched the YouTube series That's Messed Up, the one I told you guys about last week. I planned on rewatching it, and I did, and it gives an Islamic perspective, like I said, on different matters of life, and it's of personal life to be specific, and it's just fantastic. It's awesome. Check it out, guys. It's called That's Messed Up, and it's kind of like presented by Nouman Ali Khan. You guys can look him up as well, and it's really cool. It just gives you an Islamic perspective on matters of life that are really kind of like have a gray area to them sometimes, or sometimes not even a gray area, but people treat them as if it's like a gray area. And it's just really interesting, an interesting listen, rather. I listened to the entire series in one gym session. I was at the gym, and you can just listen to it. You don't even have to watch it. It's just two guys sitting down and discussing these things. And man, I listened to the whole thing in like an hour and 30 minutes in the gym. It was pretty cool. Check it out, guys. So, in MMA news, before we start, let's actually start with something that's not really something to do with MMA, but Anderson Silva's son, Khalil, decided to take up fighting, and he won his kickboxing debut by KOing his opponent in just 8 seconds. So Anderson Silva's son is getting into fighting, and he won his pro debut with an amazing knockout, a head kick knockout. Wow, another highlight reel knockout for the Silva legacy. Pretty cool thing. It was kickboxing, not really MMA, but hey, Anderson Silva's son. So that was pretty cool. And as for what happened last week, last weekend we saw Jared Cannonier beat Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin was a last-minute replacement for Paulo Costa, who pulled out from the fight. And it was a 5-round, like, back-and-forth competitive fight. But there was a clear winner, which was Jared Cannonier. And man, that fight was... I was rooting for Kelvin because he's just taking fighting killer after killer with no, he's not killer after killer with no, success. He's not beating the killers they're putting him up against. He's lost to Whitaker, who was gonna fight Paulo but pulled out, so Kelvin, stepped in. He lost to Adesanya back in 2019. He lost to Jack Hermanson. He lost to Darren Till, and now he lost to Cannonier. This guy just fights killer after killer, and he just as much as I wanted to win, he doesn't. So I'm not sure where it comes from, but there is a significant, there's a lack of, I guess skill that is apparent. The other guys either have too much size on them, like Cannonier was at heavyweight and Gaston was actually at welterweight, or there's a skill difference, such as when Whitaker beat him. So there you go. And also on the same card, Alexandre Pantoja beat Brandon Royval with a beautiful submission, very similar to how Moreno beat Figueiredo. What is it called? The body cross, and with the rear naked choke. Really cool submission, amazing. Oh, and by the way, Pantoja, however what you say his name, I'm not sure how you say it, but I'll call him Alexander. He actually beat the current flyweight champion twice, because they were all flyweights that I just mentioned, and he beat the current flyweight champion twice, and but he's not the champion. The flyweight champion, Brandon Moreno is the champion, even though he lost twice to a contender. So it's interesting that how things worked out, that he's the champion now, but this guy's still a contender. It's a weird way. It's a weird way of, how things worked out. So I'm pretty sure, and guys, flyweight is looking awesome with all the potential matchups. You've got Alexander right now in line for a title shot, probably one fight away from a title shot. And a fight to make is Alexander versus Askar Askarov, who actually fought Moreno, the champion, and went to a draw with him. So it'll be interesting to see who wins that fight between Alexander and Askarov to go on to face the champ again, because they're rematching. So it's really interesting what flyweight is turning up. These contenders are really, clawing their way up. And we'll see what's next for Figueiredo as well. I'm not sure what is next for him, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. And guys, coming up this weekend, Edson Barboza is fighting. He's matched up against Giga Chikadze. And man, this is going to be probably a striking clinic. Remember how I said, even though it's not a pay-per-view, the cards are still awesome? That's what's happening. Last week, that was the case. This week, probably is going to be the case as well. Edson Barboza is fighting, and man, he just looks amazing at featherweight. Like, at lightweight, he was awesome. But featherweight, he's looking amazing as well. And he's fighting... what's his name? Giga, and these two are both strikers, so it's gonna be a striking masterclass. Probably it's gonna be a clinic by both guys. So I'm really looking forward to see it. I really want to see a good fight like Barboza had last time with what's his name, Shane Burgos. It was a great fight with a great knockout at the end. Pretty cool. Oh, and also on Barboza's card is my man Abdulrazak Al Hassan. Who's fighting Alessio Di Chirico, and I'm hoping my man Abdulrazak gets back to the win column because his past few fights were hard to watch. He wasn't winning, and man, I'm really hoping he wins his next fight. Allah wafka. And Alessio Di Chirico, the guy that he's fighting against, was the guy that actually KO'd Joaquin Buckley, who got KO of the year last year. So really cool matchups coming up. And that's not to mention the pay-per-views that are coming up, which I'm going to talk about later, not today, because, it's very interesting. They need an episode on their own. So, yeah, very cool things coming up, guys. And, yeah. So, actually, why not talk about them now? Why am I stuttering a lot? I mean, that's every episode, right? That's every week. It's nothing new now. So, let's look at this up. UFC card. Just Google UFC card, and you see all the fights that are coming up. And here we go. So next week we've got Derek Brunson versus Darren Till. Pretty good fight. We're gonna see who of those get to be a top contender, and possibly maybe get a top a title contender fight after winning this. Oh, and this newcomer that has a lot of hype behind him and media support called Paddy Pimblett from England, a Scouser from Liverpool, who was fighting finally after months of being considered a prospect. He's finally fighting in the UFC. That's gonna be on Darren Till's card. So 2 Scousers in one card. Pretty cool. All right, so that's what we've got wow. There was a bunch of events before. Yeah, how long is the last pay-per-view? Was the 8th of August. When Cyril Gane beat Derek Lewis. And the next pay-per-view is the end of September, 26th of September. Why is there over a month and a half between two pay-per-views? It usually is 4 or 3 weeks. Man, there's a lot of fight nights in between those two. And also, the week before last week, there was no card at all. So this is kind of interesting. Anyway, so this week we've got Barboza versus Chikadze. Next week is Brunson versus Till. The week after that we've got Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. And then the week after that we've got the pay-per-view of Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega, with the undercard having Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. I rewatched the first fight a few days ago, and it was pretty cool, guys. It was a pretty good fight. And but this fight is 17 years later. Let's see if it'll bring the same excitement. So, and also on that card is Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Curtis Blades, and just what's his name? Marlon Moraes versus Merab Divalishvili, and Dan Hooker versus Nasrat Hakparast. I think that's how you say his name. So yeah, that's a pretty good card. UFC 266 is a pretty good card. However, it's not as star-studded, as what's coming up next. I think UFC 267 or 8, yeah, the one with a lot of fighters. 267, which I'm gonna get into, I guess, in a later episode. That's a card to look out for. But man, is it so far away? It's so far away. Anyway, we're just gonna have to enjoy the fights that we have, which are pretty awesome still. This whole year has been an amazing year of fights. I keep saying it, but it's true. It's an amazing week of fights and year of fights, and it's looking to be still going hard and awesome until the end of the year. Man, it's gonna be fun to watch all these matchups. It's pretty cool. All right, guys. I guess kind of cutting it short here. Maybe it's a bit short. Gonna actually end the podcast right now because I don't want the camera to run out of video. Where it kind of closes off. So I'm just gonna end this this podcast right now. Kind of short this week, but not sorry, I guess, because I kind of didn't figure out how to fix the camera still. So, with that said, this was the Candlelight Podcast by yours truly, Mohamed Abdalla. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you come back for more. And once again, إرضاء الناس غاية لا تدرك. The pleasure of people is an unachievable goal. See you guys in the next one. Peace.